Hey everyone, welcome to another Facebook Live on Friday. I hope everyone has had a good week. Um, I've had a pretty decent week this week. A little stressful, but overall, pretty good. I did some got some good workouts in. I actually was able to break the 19-second mark for 100 meters on the rower, which was pretty cool. Was able to do that in 18.8. So a lot of progress there. Had a really good run yesterday. It's really fall starting to rear its head here in New Hampshire, so the leaves are changing, and it was just a really perfect fall run yesterday out on the trail, so I really enjoyed that. Just trying to take advantage of the fall weather while I can. It's probably one of my favorite times of the year, so just trying to spend a lot of time outdoors and do a lot of cool fall activities. Went apple picking last weekend, probably gonna go to corn maze this weekend, all kinds of fun stuff. But today, what I want to talk about, I was just out to breakfast with a client, and imagine that, having a breakfast in person with a client. It's amazing. And we were chatting about, what was the biggest kind of root cause to kind of the health epidemic that we find ourselves in nowadays. And we were talking about things like sugar and vegetable oils. People like to blame health problems on carbohydrates or fat or meat or all kinds of different things, right? What is the number one thing that's really a problem here, right? And the thing that probably one of my biggest pet peeves with people in the health and fitness industry is that they tend to blame very complex problems on something that is very, one singular thing, right? It is, sugar is the cause, or calories is the problem, or carbohydrates are the issue, or just high insulin, or it's all this red meat that we're eating, or whatever. And it's really never that simple um, of a thing, right? You can't just say you are unhealthy because this, right? And that's why the entire world is unhealthy. Everyone is different. Everyone has different problems. Everyone behaves. Bodies, our physiology is completely different, and it's oftentimes a very much a multifactorial problem. So you can't just ever narrow it down to one thing. But what you can do is, I think there's two things in my mind that I think would make the biggest impact on everyone's health, regardless of what the root cause of the issue is. And that is, first, eating whole foods. Right? If we stopped eating processed foods, chips, crackers, donuts, cookies, all the stuff that comes in a bag or a box or whatnot. If we stopped eating all that stuff and just stuck to meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, those type of things, we would all be in a much better place, right? So we eat far too many processed foods, and we don't eat enough whole foods. And what do whole foods do? Well, whole foods have a lot more nutrition. They're a lot more filling, and they don't have all this other garbage in, right? So people blame things on like sugar and vegetable oils, right? Whole foods don't have sugar and vegetable oils in it, right? So you automatically eliminate things. When we blame our health epidemic on calories, right? Too many calories. Well, when you eat whole foods, most people tend to self-regulate their appetite. They don't eat too much. They don't overeat, right? Whole foods are filling. They send the right signals to our brain and our body that we're getting the right nutrition, we're getting the right food and calories, and our appetites regulate accordingly. Try to overeat baked potatoes. Just a baked potato with nothing on it. Try to overeat it. You can't do it. Try to eat just overeat plain chicken breast. You can't do it, right? It's just, you can't overeat these things. So, a lot of these other things that happen. People blame things like, oh, it's the carbs or it's the sugar or whatnot. Well, when you just eat whole foods, it takes care of all these problems in one thing, right? So, um, and under that, I just want to add one more thing because I think there's a sub point in here that is particularly important when it comes to what we're eating, and that is just eating adequate protein. Um, Now, I don't want to say, I don't want to get into the weeds here and say how much protein you should be eating, but because again, I want to keep this simple, right? It's just two things that you need to do is eat whole foods, right? Is the first thing. And as part of that, I think the most important thing you could do is eat adequate protein. And how do you find out it's adequate protein? Yeah, you can calculate it, you can weigh it, you measure it. But I say if you just eat, a, you know, a palm size, a hand size portion of protein 3 times a day at every meal, you're good, right? That's going to give you pretty much an accurate amount of protein for your body. Just do that. So eat whole foods and make sure you get a hand, palm size piece of protein at every meal, and you're good, right? I'm not going to say where that protein should come from. I'm not going to get into that debate because it's a whole other discussion, but it's pretty much as simple as that. And the second thing that people need to do that would drastically improve their health is to move. Far too many of us are sedentary, not moving, right? Um, this is when we start to talk about why an ancestral approach to life in general is so beneficial, is because it eliminates a lot of these mismatches between what our bodies expect and what we're actually doing, right? And the first mismatch is the food that we're eating. The second mismatch is the fact that we're eating a whole bunch of processed food and we're not moving at all, right? We're a long time ago, not even a long time ago, 50, 100 years ago, we were moving a lot. Our lives required movement. You had to, get up and move around, walk and go places. And now I just got a notification that my groceries were delivered to my door. This is the world we live in. So we need to inject movement into our lives, and that can be as simple as walking. I think walking is by far the best form of movement that you can possibly do. Why? Because you're moving your body. We're naturally good walkers. We're meant to walk. We're, bipedal human beings, and that's just what we did. We either sat on our butts in some position or we walked on our feet, and we do far too much sitting and lying down and not actually being in natural positions. And so I think walking is the best form of movement. There are obviously other form of movements. You can ride a bike, you can jump rope, skip, hop, jump. I don't really care what movement is. I just want you to get up and move. And if we move and eat whole unprocessed foods, regardless of the macronutrient breakdown, or where they're coming from or whatnot, just eating whole foods. I don't care if you're consuming beans, you're having fruit, you're eating very little vegetables, you're eating a lot of vegetables. It doesn't really matter what that looks like to me. Whatever you enjoy, and you moved, we could eliminate all kinds of different issues, right? For example, right, again, going back to blaming one specific thing as the cause, right? We can say, elevated glucose is the cause of all these health problems. Well, yeah, but what can you do to mitigate that fact? Move, right? I spent a few months wearing a CGM, constantly tracking my glucose, and the number one difference, the most biggest difference when I wanted to lower my glucose was to move. And actually, it wasn't intense movement; it was walking. That's what makes the biggest difference. I saw all kinds of crazy things happen to my glucose while I was exercising, but consistently, if I got up and went for a 10 to 15 minute walk, my blood sugar could be at 130, right, which isn't even terrible, right, but it's pretty high for me. 130, and after 10 to 15 minutes, it's down to 80s. It immediately drops it, right? So if you're going to blame glucose and carbs and whatnot for being the culprit of all the disease in the world, what can you do to mitigate that? Move. right? And you're getting physical exercise, you're moving around, you're burning some calories. If you're going outside and doing it, you're getting sunlight on your skin, in your eyes, which can then help promote vitamin D production, which has a whole bunch of additional benefits. The sunlight in your eyes is going to help set your circadian rhythm, potentially help your sleep, right? So these two things have wide-ranging impacts and kind of address all these other things where we like to narrow down on vegetable oils or sugar or insulin or glucose or carbs or fat or meat or whatever, right? If you just do those two things, eat whole foods and move, you're addressing so many other problems. Um, so I don't like to think about, what's the number one thing that we should eliminate from our diets that's going to improve our health. I like to think about what are the two changes that I can make to my lifestyle that are going to make the biggest impact and mitigate the damage from any of the things that might be hurting me. And that is eating whole foods and moving. So if you're not doing those things today, or you think you could be doing them better, I encourage you to, really make a conscious effort to do that. If you need help, please reach out, direct message me, uh, post a comment. If you want to get more tips just like this every week delivered to your inbox and not have to worry about when I'm going to go live on Facebook, sign up for my newsletter. You go to rjbhealth.coach and there's a link at the top of the newsletter. Enter your email address, sign up, and you'll get I send out the replay of my weekly Facebook lives every weekend to everyone on the newsletter in case you missed it. So if you want to keep up to date on that, do that. And obviously other great content comes out there too. I send out blog posts and just weekly kind of short little facts and useful pieces of information to everyone. So that's all I got for this week. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. I will be back next week. And until then, have a great week.